Same old man. Here's Johnny.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast. This is Ryan McQuaid.
And I'm Jay Ledbetter.
Thanks for coming back to the show, guys. And it's time for a little wick action. Jay?
Ooh, gotta light that wick.
Gotta light the wick. Gotta go that way. We're gonna be here to review the latest film in the John Wick saga, John Wick Chapter 4. No Brendan, no JD again. It's just us here, Jay.
No.
We're just doing our thing here.
Just the boys.
Just the boys. Just the boys hanging out, you know, going to the Continental, having a little bit of a drink, not conducting any business on the grounds, just chillaxing, staying a little low, but obviously a little mayhem in between. Yes, we're talking about what is now the number one film in the world, which is John Wick Chapter 4, a movie that, Jay, I know you and I, Brendan and JD and everybody else around the world has been looking forward to this movie, which is a phenomenon at this point. It's one of the most organic franchises that we have left in the world.
Isn't that crazy?
Movie franchises.
John Wick almost went straight to video.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in a world where that movie could have just like literally just been VOD exclusive, and instead now it is one of the most successful franchises we have running today. Isn't that crazy?
Based on no prior IP, it's just John Wick hanging out with his old stunt guys, making an action movie, and now it's just the talk of the town. It's really crazy how successful it's been, and I love how successful it's been because I love this series. I gotta say, it's one of the best going, and I'm excited to talk about this one because it was one of my most anticipated films of the year for sure.
Is it the best series right now, period, in Hollywood?
Oh boy. I mean, you got your Mission Impossibles in there.
I think that's number one for me.
In the running. But
you got Bond.
Yeah, I'm out. Help me out.
Yeah. Oh, you're out on Bond.
I'm out on. Yeah, Bond has not been as good, certainly in the last 15 years, as Mission Impossible or John Wick. I would say, I think you're Mission Impossible and I'm John Wick. I think that's kind of where we stand there.
That's fair, but I think those are like the 1-2. Right?
And Shazam, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure after your review of Shazam, it's like really high on the hierarchy of franchises. Yeah, sure, you'll go to Instagram Live and talk about Shazam a little bit more, right?
Absolutely.
It's
me and Zach.
Absolutely sweeping the nation over there. Yeah, it's not any wild comments that's been made since your review with Brendan last week. No, I love John Wick. I think that it and Mission Impossible are the best franchises because of their stars' commitment, and especially with Mission Impossible of late, and especially with John Wick too, their director's singular vision that sort of dominates everything and make those movies what they are. So it's a team up between the star in front of the camera and behind the camera. That was what made those movies so special, with Chad Stahelski and Keanu Reeves, this dream team here. But Jay, let's just dive right into the wickage here, and or the carnage, the Wick carnage. John Wick Chapter 4, which is directed by Chad Stahelski, and of course stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Ian McShane, Donnie Yen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who else do we got here? Bill Skarsgård, the late great Lance Reddick, obviously, and then of course so many others. But of course, this movie, which is, like I said, number one movie in the world, follows John Wick as he uncovers a path to defeating the High Table. But before he can earn his freedom, Wick must face off against a new enemy with powerful alliances across the globe and forces that turn old friends into foes. Last time we left John Wick, Jay, in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, which is just a horrible title.
Every single John Wick movie has a different naming structure. So
not really. It's John Wick Chapter 2,
No, isn't it
John
just
Wick
John
Chapter
Wick 2?
3.
Isn't it just John Wick 2?
I thought it was John Wick Chapter 2.
Maybe it is.
Maybe I'm
Maybe
wrong.
I'm wrong.
Maybe
That'd be pretty
it is.
embarrassing.
I don't know. I can look that up while you're talking about this. But then yeah. So looks. Oh nope, it's John Wick Chapter 2.
Oh,
Okay.
all right. They've come back around. It's a sandwich. They got a parabellum sandwich. The meat is parabellum with the two pieces of
Exactly.
bread
You're
being
in the
chucked
you're
in.
stuck in the parabellum realm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, John was kind of betrayed by his buddy Winston at the end of that film,
Yeah.
as Winston got the Continental back, and was kind of left for dead until the Bowery King, played by Larry Fish himself,
They
basically
came back
told him
as
to
a
rise up and
voodoo
we're going to get,
zombie, I guess.
yeah, kind of like a zombie too, yeah, and and like they're going to get revenge, right? And so this movie is going to be like the ultimate revenge on Winston and the Continental and the high table and everything. And I think about 5 minutes into this movie, we kind of forget about all that, and we just we set back on the path of John trying to clear his name so he can live his life peacefully. So
Stakes are fairly straightforward.
very straightforward, but still nonetheless so many things to talk about, Jay. But first off, let's just get your reactions to John Wick Chapter 4. What are they, my friend?
John Wick Chapter 4, I would say overlong, indulgent, and absolutely fantastic. It's
Knew it was coming.
You're not going to have a more fun time in a movie theater this year, I don't think. I don't think I will. It's a movie. It's one of those things where, a movie comes out this early and you want to make sure you remember it when the end of the year comes, because it truly will be a contender, I think, for certainly top 20 of the year, because I will echo the sentiments that people have been saying, putting out there over the last week, which is, this is a pretty spectacular action film. And then I'll throw a little bit of cold water on it and say that it's my third favorite John Wick film. I will say that. It is.
What's your ranking?
I feel like most people have been absolutely singing its praises as the greatest John Wick film. And I think it's a really, really great movie. But again, this is probably my favorite franchise going right now. This film, I think this is, so I prefer John Wick 3 and John Wick 1. Those are my two favorites.
Okay.
And I prefer John Wick 3 because it's really heavy on world building, but takes itself really seriously, except for a few jokes. John Wick 4 and John Wick 2, they're a little goofier. And I don't love that quite as much. I think people attack people in the groin like 15 times in this movie, to the point where it was getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
there was a lot of groin action going on.
A lot of groinage in this one. And I think the other thing I think about this film, and I'm going to be largely very, very positive about this movie, but I think my biggest piece of criticism about this, it is a 2-hour, 40-minute movie. It's long. And you understand Stahelski's intent was kind of to make this epic final chapter. Truly, he's described it as sort of his Lawrence of Arabia, really, is what he has said about
There's
the movie.
literally a shot in the movie. It's the matchstick shot.
Yeah.
Cut from Lawrence of Arabia.
He does not make it a secret
film.
that he's trying to
Which,
lean
Jay,
into it, if you know what I mean.
I mean, when you saw that shot, you can't help but not grin. Like
there's a bunch of there's a bunch. I found there to be a lot of homages in this movie. I think
there's a ton of homages.
I think there's a lot of nods to the Wachowskis, The Matrix, which Stahelski was intimately involved with. I think more overtly than any other film in this series, this is nodding at them as huge influences on him as a filmmaker. And it's kind of interesting because the first 25 to 30 minutes are kind of all set up, and you're like, wow, there's been no huge fight scenes yet. There's been kind of this one tease that is the true homage to Lawrence of Arabia, and then it is like 85% of the rest of the movie is just action. And there were times where I felt like it was getting a meal that was all ice cream. It was like, this is too much dessert for me. It's kind of overwhelming in how, like, I think I want ice cream, and then you're just like putting a tube down my throat and force feeding me ice cream, and it can be a little too much, because what I like about 3 is that it does lean so much into the world and the mythos of John Wick, which a lot of people find kind of exhausting, but I find pretty exhilarating. And this film, if you take all of the scenes in a vacuum, I would say fantastic. This is going to be a great, like, I want to watch one scene of John Wick on YouTube and I will be satisfied if I pick any single one. But when they come at you at such a rapid pace, I felt like it was a little overwhelming. It sort of ended up watering down the action sequences a little bit for me. But overall, fantastic time. Great end of the series. One final little criticism. I thought the ending was a little rushed, and maybe we'll get into the ending when we get into spoiler territory.
I think we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard
but
not to. There's a lot of people who've seen this movie.
It's a wonderful time at the movies. Some of the greatest action you'll see. It is such a breath of fresh air in the world of contemporary action cinema. Keanu's still got it. Stahelski has definitely proven to be the superior filmmaker of that duo in the first John Wick. It was a whole lot of fun. It's a blast. Apparently the kill count in this is 140 from John Wick, so just
could have fooled me. I thought it was a lot larger than that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that is an unbelievable number of kills. There's a lot of hordes of people that come at him at various points in this film, more than kind of some of the other movies where it's largely one-on-one, from one guy to the next guy to the next guy. In this one, it's from 3 guys to 4 guys to 3 more guys. It is a lot of movie, and I like that about it. And also, I think that's where its weaknesses kind of end up showing up as well. So, wildly ambitious film, especially for an action film, especially for, you go watch John Wick 1, and then if you go directly to John Wick 4, you'll be like, how did we get here? What happened?
I think you'd be lost. Yeah.
And it's crazy that this series has become what it is, but I'm very happy that we have it. A really, really, really good film. I had a blast.
Well, I think what's so great about what you just said there, Jay, is like, this is a franchise that's 4 movies in and has so much world building and connective tissue that, like, when you watch, and I'm not trying to bring them up, but when you watch other franchises like the DCU or the MCU, no, there's like movies you can just skip and you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Because like you can skip some of them and you'll be really good for whatever happens there. And yet, if you stay for the whole thing, like, the 30 movies in, it still feels like at times there's not nearly as much mystery or intrigue to continue to learn about these worlds. And there's a lot of subtle detail, especially in this film, too, that they really don't even have to like introduce places anymore. They're so established that, like, when they go to this new Continental, which is at the sort of the beginning of the film, right? When they're in the where does it take place in Osaka?
Osaka Continental.
Yeah. It's just like you're in the Osaka Continental. You're not like making a big darn deal about it anymore. You know what I mean? And when you're in Paris or when you're, and doing all these different locations, it's like you're
definitely
just there.
More complicated. The first film, it's like there's this Continental Hotel.
Let me tell you about it. It's in the heart of New York.
Allowed to do business on the property.
Now they're just
laid
like,
out there pretty normal. When you bring the table into it, then we get a little complicated. And that's what I like in John Wick 3. And then in 2, what I don't... That's
so
kind of where
your
the
least
real
favorite?
World building starts, where it's like, oh, I'm the sommelier of pistols. And I'm like, a little cute for me. I mean, it's fun. I
like that movie.
Sarah Fenowitz, but, a little laid on a little thick for me. But
the Taylor.
Then they really, really lean into it in 3. And I loved it, but
I see it like, so I this is what I love about them, is that they continue to build their world, and it's so lived in 4 films in, and it has what some franchises die for in like 15, 20 films, it feels like. And I will say this about my rankings. is that I actually really like John Wick 2. I like it
A
because
lot of people think say it's their favorite. It's just not mine. It's
it's
great.
it's
Again, it's great. This franchise is incredible.
honestly, weirdly enough, I felt like the first John Wick was ultimately just a massive surprise. I did not see that in a theater. Watched it on like HBO, and I literally watched John Wick 1 again the next night with my then girlfriend, now wife, just so that she can confirm that I wasn't an idiot for thinking this movie was great. And then she's like, "No, this is a great movie." I said, "Okay, okay, okay." And the second one, I had such a great time with it. I think it still leans into the idea of John wanting to kind of get out, essentially.
Mhm.
And I think in 3 we kind of lose that because he's on the run and he's trying to then go after the high table at this point to clear his name, and it becomes a little bit more grander of scope, rather than like, still by the end of 2 he's like, I want to go back to this burnt house that's exploded with my dog
Yeah.
and
The
get away
emotional
with it,
stakes of one are so simple, but they're so effective. It
Yeah, and I
is.
think 2 kind of still has that emotional core, but then of course by the end of 2, which is I think the best way that this series has ended on a film, him running in New York and leaving you on the high to get to 3, and then the opening of 3 is so great that like the rest of the movie is I feel like, for me, and while I really do like 3, I just think the lesser one of the franchise is
We're picking nits here because they're all
we're
so
really we
good.
really are, because like I still think it's a great movie, but like the high of the beginning of that movie and that adrenaline chase through New York is so great and leaves you satisfied from being, left in the dust for like 2 years waiting for that. Then like the rest of the movie, I'm like, I really don't give a crap about
Yeah,
anything
and then
else
I'm
here
like,
nearly as much.
yeah, he
Yeah,
goes and gets his finger cut off. I'm like,
yeah, and stuff like that.
talk about
But then like,
that insane lore that they're building. I'm like,
but the
give me
fight in the
all of that.
Continental,
Force feed me.
yeah, the fight in the Continental's great. And then you even
Yes.
get like, Lance Reddick involved and sort of like the high table versus John Wick, essentially. And that's what I love about this movie. I think this movie just kind of takes everything from 3 and elevates it even to, like, you are less, it sounds like a little bit lesser on, to ridiculous levels. I think like Bill Sarsgaard here
He's
is
having fun.
he's having fun as a person that, like, of course the high table would hire somebody that basically is essentially taking the character from the first film, but taking it to a degree of like, your job now of this title is to kill John Wick. I don't care how you do it. You have all your
Yeah.
all the things that the high table want. And I like the fact that essentially it becomes like John Wick beating this man to the point where you have so many branches of enemies that are friends and foes and new characters and arch rivals, and to the point in which like you have what is essentially the entire city of Paris trying to kill him at a certain point. And it's
Yeah.
so wild and bombastic, and it works perfectly. I think that the one thing that gets hung up from this movie is a little bit of the connective tissue that ties it from the end of 3, in that we just kind of forget about all the things that happened at the end of that movie for all the characters involved, including Winston. Even though it's like there's a deal made there, but then the deal is revoked by Sarsgaard from the high table when he gets the power. I think Lawrence Fishburne just looks good now. He's not a zombie anymore. And Wick
Well,
has just been
he's got like stitch
got a little eye
scars on
patch,
his
right?
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
when Larry Fish is the first guy that has a line in this movie, and it is like going back to Morpheus levels of swagger and presence.
we knew what we were in for.
Not another small complaint. Not enough Larry Fish.
No,
he's
there's never
amazing.
enough
He's
Larry
not
Fish in
the
every
time.
movie.
Yeah, yeah, you're right
Listen,
about that.
Lawrence
You're right about
Fishburne
that.
is a goat. He is a legend.
He's the man.
I still don't understand why we couldn't have him. I understand in the Matrix Resurrections like how they worked it out, but it's like yeah, it's great, but I want Lawrence Fishburne in every movie. Like, period.
Yeah.
End of story. It feels weird not having him in a Matrix movie. It was weird, but we get him in this, and yes, his line delivery is so over the top, but it's so welcomed. You know what I mean?
So
and
good.
he's great. And Keanu's just amazing in this role. I mean, he really is. He just I don't and I was lucky, Jay, to see this at the North American premiere at South by Southwest.
And I'm sure the crowd was electric.
It was insane. So there are a lot of moments in this movie where, just like in every John Wick movie, where Keanu Reeves is fighting somebody and gets hit by a car or falls to the ground or
He gets
literally
beat up in
falls
this
down.
movie so much.
He literally falls down multiple flights of stairs, falls through buildings.
That part was hysterical.
It was hysterical. Watching that moment with a crowd, that scene specifically, was every time he was falling down through a flight of stairs, everyone was going, oh, no, and it just kept building and building, and then he'd fall to the ground, and there was this one lady in the audience that just kept screaming, "Get up, Keanu!" And like the whole audience just went crazy, and he's sitting like 2 rows in front of me, and they're like, him and Stahelski are just eating this up, and it plays so well with the crowd that I understand why everyone is calling this a masterpiece. I understand why everyone is saying that like this is a great action vehicle, because it's one of the best authentic action films that we've had in such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not think this is a perfect movie. I do agree with you, Jay. It feels like a kitchen sink, and it is being thrown a lot.
Yeah.
And I think the majority of it sticks. And I think there are a lot of moments where the action does kind of, there's so much coming at you that it feels like, have I seen this already in the franchise before?
Yes, that certainly crossed my mind at times.
There's a little bit like that, but then also too, I disagree with you that it's like 85% just like action, because there are moments of like levity, and there are moments of like
You can
this
take a
whole
breath
thing.
occasionally.
It takes breaths, like with Wick and McShane, and then of course Wick with McShane and Sarsgaard, and then of course John going back to his family roots, which is stuff that comes from 3, and then of course obviously the setting up of the meeting between him and Sarsgaard and the duel that happens. And so I think all that stuff is good to have in this movie, because if it was just a straight Mad Max Fury Road, almost essentially is what a best description I can give a movie like this. If it was like that for 2 hours and 40 minutes,
almost is that to me.
It almost is that, but I don't think that kind of style works best in a John Wick movie. I think you got to have those levels of the ridiculous dialogue and the rules and the mythology that make this franchise so great, and what I love and you love, which is just this just almost like drippings of just the most ridiculous rules being created as they go. And I think the rules here are pretty stupid at times. Like, it's just like this duel that's come out of nowhere. We've never learned about this in a bylaw. It's just kind of made up because like Ian McShane is pissed off that he lost his hotel.
Because
And you know what?
But I mean, they've done that.
But they've done it so many times. I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's great. Just give me so I can get to the next piece. But I will say, directorially speaking, I think this is Stahelski's best job so far in the
movie
series.
Looks so good.
Louston cinematography.
God.
The editing in this movie is extraordinary. The fact that they had I think it was close to a 4-hour cut and they turned this into a 2 hour and 45-minute cohesive film is an achievement within itself in editing. But then you're talking about these wide open landscapes shots like the Lawrence of Arabia cut. You're talking about these various different action sequences at night, a lot of them at night, and you can tell what's going on in those sequences, Jay, which is very important because a lot of movies don't know how to light their action sequences.
Murky night scenes are a big point of conversation right now, and this does not have that because they like neon lights.
Yeah, and Stahelski's use of aerial shots in particular too.
Some great drone work here.
Great drone work.
Inventive drone work.
But also too, I'm going to tell you, and this is something you love, especially you love this when it comes to musicals. letting the camera sit back in the
Yeah.
action
That's
shot
the whole
and
John Wick
actually
thing. Yeah.
seeing the whole sequence. And the fact that, like, what I love about each John Wick movie as we've gone on, the detail about it is every time John is fighting, you feel that Keanu has aged, like the character is aging in sort of how tired he is. Because, like, we've seen him fight with nunchucks before, but in this, it's not about cool tricks anymore. It's just about how can I kill this guy the quickest and easiest way? Because I'm so goddamn tired of killing people. I'm tired, really, at this point of everything. I just want to get up the stairs. It's like literally, it's like I just got to finish getting up the damn stairs, Jay, and he can't do it because there's more and more obstacles in his way, and you feel the characters just at a certain point, like, I've given so much, like, is this worth it? And I think that really ties well into the first film with the emotionality by the end of the film too.
Yeah, it does. And again, I think that stuff's a little rushed. Can I throw out a hot take?
Yes.
Keanu, 10% less convincing in this movie as an action star?
Yeah, but I think that that's purposeful.
I think it is at times.
I think it's
And
purposeful.
it's no fault of his. Lord knows he works his tail off for these movies. But
I mean, also,
getting older. Looks
I mean,
fantastic.
also, if you think about the character and what he's gone through,
Then
he's
again,
probably
Donnie
not
Yen
going to.
is older, but man, is he convincing. We'll talk about him.
Well, yeah, but he's been, like, retired and fine. He's not been, like, literally chased around the entire globe and they're trying to kill him. You know what I mean? Like, so I get why he's a half step, even though he's still a killing machine. He's still, like, in hand-to-hand scenes, like, he's a half step slower. And also, yeah, like, Keanu's like 50 something and still, like, doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I will say this about him, and this is something that is a tip in John Wick's favor over something like Mission Impossible. It's like, you feel like at times Tom Cruise in that movie is made out of vibranium. Like, the fact that, like, the man, like, anytime he gets hit or anytime he falls or anything, he's like, he just gets back up and starts running again.
Well,
and, like,
with Wick,
you
I
feel
understand
the
what you're saying
pain.
about him. Yeah, Wick gets exhausted and beat up, but he also falls from 4-story buildings onto concrete, and it is okay. So it's there's a little balance there. But yes, I do understand what you're saying, and I do appreciate that for sure.
I think you feel the mileage, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
In this character more than you do in others, and I think that that's kind of shown in the performance. And it's and at a certain point, you're just like, the movie is talking more and more about essentially his mortality and sentimentality more than it was in the last two films for sure. And we'll talk about the ending. I don't think this is the last time. Just not with the movie be your fourth entry in a franchise and be your most successful film.
Let's go to spoilers. We've been talking.
You really want to go to spoilers 30 minutes in?
Let's go to spoilers.
All right, we're going.
We'll go back to non-spoiler talk, but let's go ahead and get to spoilers.
I mean, maybe we should. We should wait a little bit for spoilers.
We can wait a little bit. That's fine.
I think we should. I think we should.
You want to talk about Donnie Yen?
Let's talk about Donnie Yen. We got to talk about these new characters. Donnie Yen. My God, what a just like
fantastic.
All the new additions are great, fantastic, smart choices. You mentioned it earlier. Stahelski really just was like, if this is him tapping out, essentially, unloading that kitchen sink, feeling as if like you're like George Miller. I'm not making another one of these, so I might as well just like throw it all out there.
Right.
What a way to do it, and have like Scott Adkins and Donnie Yen and all these.
Scott Adkins.
We could talk about that.
I mean, we got to talk about all these supporting characters, but let's do Donnie Yen. Let's do Donnie Yen because he is not only the most convincing action star in the film, but also really, I by the end of the film, I was like, he's almost like a co-lead. He's as much the beating heart of the story as John Wick is, because he honestly has more emotional stakes in this film than Wick does. He has been so cut off from everything that he loves that really for him it is now a story of survival. Whereas Donnie Yen has people that he loves. Their lives are at stake in this film. And so he has to do things that he doesn't want to do. And he does them with incredible aplomb, both as a performer, an action performer, and as a traditional actor. And if you just want to talk about, we talk about best actor, you know, what does best actor really mean? Or in his case, it would be best supporting actor. The art of physical performance here is out of this world fantastic from him. He plays a blind character, and being blind comes into play in every fight that he has. And he is so convincing as this. Obviously, he's not playing, you know, a normal blind person, but he incorporates that blindness into his performance in these action sequences with such a delicate touch, where you can really understand in this super heightened world how a character like him, you believe that he would be as lethal as he is in this movie, which is a huge accomplishment. And inherently, when you have this blind character who does just have this sense to him, this kind of extra sensory ability that he seems to have in this film, that gives this real sense of like spirituality, which I think he brings to the role as well. I think he's a fairly complicated character, especially by John Wick standards. And the best scene in this movie is him and Keanu
Wick.
sitting in a church
with that
talking
those candles.
about their relationship with each other, and not just about their relationship with each other, but their relationship with, you know, the next realm. Because you're right, this is a lot about mortality, and you have John Wick, he's talking to his wife, and Donnie Yen to him, Kane is his character's name. He says, "Why, you know, do you believe in the afterlife or whatever, the next world?" And he says, "No." And he said, and Kane says, "Well, why do you talk to your wife then?" And John Wick just says, "In case I'm wrong," which is a really heartbreaking line.
That is a wonderful line.
It is a great piece of dialogue in this movie that you remember more for a dog biting some guy's crotch than anything else. But that is a piece of dialogue and a dialogue exchange that is so far above and beyond what a movie like this needs to do. And that's a really great piece of work from all involved. But Donnie Yen is really, he might be the MVP of the movie. He is absolutely fantastic. His ability as a martial artist, and this is more than any other movie in the franchise, leaning into that kind of Hong Kong action sensibility. And you see that with many of the performers here. This is a true martial arts movie, as opposed to some of the other films, which are very gun-focused. And this is certainly gun-focused, too. I kept thinking about Equilibrium and how lame Equilibrium is with its gun-fu, and how great this is with its version of gun-fu.
How they're all essentially gun-fu, but they've leaned in from the like you mentioned, Jay, the sensibilities of the Wachowskis with The Matrix, and because that's where Stahelski and Reeves met, and leaning in from those from you know, John Woo and other directors that have used the gun fu as it's known, and a lot of movies have since tried to emulate it, or try to really not even emulate Woo. Is a lot of it's just trying to emulate The Matrix, or try to take that style and not add. That's why I think John Wick has been so great. It's because like they know how to make those movies because they made those movies, but they also know how to make this action feel spectacular, but then have moments of levity like this to elevate their characters from just being one note, you know, forgotten actors here. And you bring somebody like Donnie Yen, who is one of the great action stars in the entire world. Yeah. And you're competing him against John Wick, which is what a lot of people would consider the great action hero of the modern era. And I agree with you. What Kane shows in this movie is unlike even like Halle Berry's character or Common's character, or John Leguizamo or Willem Dafoe, that have been other sort of side characters that have been friends slash enemies to John Wick, is that there's another staple behind that is still coexisting.
Yeah, this might be the best ensemble.
Yeah, this might be because of the fact that like he's got a tangible thing still that the high table holds against him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Defoe is just like he was a former friend. Common, the person like John already killed essentially his, the mistress that he protected. And like Halle Berry is just helping him as a one-time thing. And yes, one of her dogs dies, and that's terrible. But like, she still got two, and she still got a ton of power by the end of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like a one-off thing, one scene, great scene in that movie, but like it's there and it's gone, and poof, we're probably never going to hear from Halle Berry again in this series, right? Donnie Yen, on the other hand, because of that chip that the high table holds against him, which is his daughter, and this hold that they have over it, it adds complications, but it adds also to connective tissue between him and John, of that they've had love, people that they've loved that essentially have been taken away from them, and in order to find their peace, they have to do it by killing one another. And I think that they relate to each other more than just their friendship and bond from working so much. It's because they know what it's like to have something deeply connected to them taken away. And I agree with you. That scene in the church is fantastic, but also the way in which he is conflicted in killing John throughout the film, even when you get to the staircase sequence, because he knows, I don't want these random henchmen killing him. I'm going to kill you. If anyone's killing you tonight, I'm going to kill you.
Because I
and so he starts. It's because he respects him so much, and I think also too the
sense
Donnie
of brotherhood
Yen,
too.
It's a sense of it's a sense of brotherhood. It's a respect that you earn, and that it feels earned. And I don't need a setup film in order to learn or for that to be earned. It's just spoken by the actions of these guys in the fight sequences that are here, and the dialogue that is spoken between them. But then you look at Donnie Yen's character, like you said, very stylish, very cool, and very inventive in the way that he uses his disability as an ability, like the sort of doorbell sensors.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
Are absolutely incredible.
It's just so inventive.
It's little details like that, and you go,
yeah,
what is he doing? Is it like what is it? And then the doorbell rings, and he kills the henchmen's there, and or
he's
the
fighting
the
sonically,
guys, and it's like, holy hell, that is so good. And there's like moments too where he has vulnerabilities in his sequences as well, and he's able to overcome them because he's such a hired assassin. If there's one new character in this movie that I'm not a big fan of,
Mr. Nobody,
because I think ultimately that goes nowhere in trying to figure out what his connection to John.
Is he going to be in a spin-off or something?
What
are we doing?
Like, what is his connection? Is he just a fan? Do we just want a cool guy to be alongside him? Like, because he had a dog? Like, what was he in this movie? Like, they don't explain it.
It was strange. I kind of came around to him a little bit by the end.
Came to him by the end, but like, I didn't understand who and what he was and why he was essentially stalking the moves of John Wick. Did you get any of that? Did you understand what his motive and purpose was behind us being a character, other than to be somebody there to bail John out? Oh, he wants to is that what he just basically is?
Who, Mr. Nobody?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that pretty good moment early on where he sees John, and he basically fights on his behalf while also threatening him, because he's like, your bounty's not high enough yet. I'll find you though. I mean, I know I'm following you, just so you know, but your bounty's not quite high enough yet.
Is
And
that
so
kind of like a?
he keeps trying to leverage his abilities and his knowledge of John's whereabouts for more money from the Marquis. And it's pretty odd when at the end of the film you're in this very tense sequence and we kind of keep cutting to him sitting on a bench.
Like basically
And
like
you're
eating popcorn
you're not
and just
important enough to be the third wheel in this sequence.
Is he like supposed to be like a homage to like Leone films, or like of like A Man with No
That's
Name,
possible. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you
those
asked
third
Stahelski,
characters
he
there?
would probably say that. It's a pretty weak reason to have him in the film.
It's a
if that's what it
stretch.
is,
And that's
but
the only thing I could sit there because it's like
this is very much. Yeah, I mentioned it being a kind of Hong Kong martial arts film. It's also the most westerny of all of the John Wick films too. Especially
it's a
towards the
very
end.
sweaty character. I
Yeah.
think it's like a character like I want to have homages, but I don't actually have like a thematic reason. Because if you take him out of the film, do you really need him?
Doesn't really change that much. The one
Doesn't
thing,
change that much, does he?
Yeah, there's another thing about this film that you realize as it goes along, and especially, did you stay for the end credit sequence?
Yes.
So I remember seeing Blade Runner 2049 when that came out, a movie that I think is incredible. It's probably my first or second favorite movie of the year that it came out. But the one thing that bugged me about it was there's this side sequence with this group of women that is clearly being set up for a spinoff. They wanted to make this HBO Max series, I think is what it was, or whatever it might have been.
I think they're still trying. Aren't they making like a TV show or something?
I don't think that's actually going to happen because that movie didn't do very well.
Aren't they doing like Blade Runner 2099 or something like that?
Aren't they doing, well, they did an animated thing. I don't know. Are they, yeah, they did.
Are they doing a movie?
Oh, that's on like Amazon, isn't it?
Something. I don't know.
I don't know. But when you watch that movie,
what is
it's very clear that they are trying to make this spin-off series or series of films about this group of women who are trying to lead a revolution, and they're trying to recruit Ryan Gosling in that film to join their cause.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of grinds the movie to a halt at a couple points in the film. And there is some of that in this film, and then it really sinks in when you see the post-credit scene, which again we can talk about when we get into spoilers. But there are some side plots that you really feel are kind of sweaty setups for other stories within the universe of John Wick. And when you know that there are 2 spin-offs planned, there's the Ballerinas spin-off from they're in John Wick 2, correct?
They're in John Wick 3. That's the
3. Yes,
Angelica
they're in 3.
Houston.
And then there's also another, like a Continental show or something. I don't know, but there's two extended universe.
Yeah, the Continental is like a prequel with like about
and
Winston
the
and
then
the ballerinas.
I think.
Yeah, and it's gonna have Lance Reddick and Keanu.
I guess it is already filmed.
Yeah, I think it's coming out next year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really excite me. I got to be honest.
It'd be like the Ballerinas, a John Wick story. You know what I mean?
Who were just a little piece of John Wick lore that they kind of threw in, and even that you were like, okay, so this is a setup for something else, I guess.
I mean, like it could be like an Atomic Blonde adjacent sort of film where it's like it's fine action film, but it's not.
I mean, it could be, and I loved Ana de Armas in No Time to Die. She was my favorite part of that movie.
Hey, wait a minute. That's Academy Award nominee now, Ana de Armas.
Correct. You know what? You're right. I'm sorry. It's like Dame Judi Dench. You got to put it in front of Ana de Armas every time you mention her name.
Oh, it's Dame. I always thought it was Damn Judi Dench.
Damn Judi Dench.
Damn Judy. But no, I don't. I agree with you. I think that this character feels like you know what it really felt like, honestly. Like a Renner. You know when like Jeremy Renner started showing up in like Ghost
in
Protocol,
Mission Impossible,
and they were like, "Oh, am I going to pass off the franchise to this guy?"
Yeah.
and then like Tom Cruise was like, "No, I'm not going to give up my franchise." And so like Renner
Yeah.
becomes like a side character in Rogue Nation and then disappears and has
And then
never
just goes
been
away.
seen ever,
Yeah.
ever again. Wouldn't that be great also, by the way, if like Renner just ends up being the bad guy in Dead Reckoning Part 1 that we like nobody thinks about. Anyway, just kind of putting that out there, but probably not the case, but you know what I mean.
Almost just made a very bad joke about Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, you don't do it. The man's
I
technically
did
kind
not
of like
do
a
it.
hero
I
at
held
this
back.
point. Yeah, he's poor Jeremy Renner. But also like good for him and doing the right thing.
But I'm glad he's okay.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's what it kind of feels like with this character, because like I gotta say, cute dog, love the dog. A little bit too, like you're right, but you're right, Jay. A little bit too many like times the dog kind of Deus Ex Machina crotch snatches somebody, and you also think like too, like, did the dog not kill that one guy that works for the Marquis enough? Like, how does that guy like get to the steps when the last time you saw him, like the dog's mouth
Yeah.
is hanging on by his crotch, and like how's the
I
dog
felt,
alive? How is he alive? Like, come on.
it's kind of true of all of the films, but there are moments where John Wick will just push a guy down like 4 stairs, and we're expected to believe that he is now incapacitated or dead. And then John Wick falls down 200 stairs, and he's fine.
Yeah.
And I can get behind, he's the main character. He's a little more durable than everybody else. That's fine. But, he kills 140 people. So you would think one of them might be a little stronger. Let me say this too.
Right.
Maybe my favorite part of the movie was the Scott Adkins portion. I think he rocks in this movie. Yeah, did you not like that part? I thought
Even
it was
in
amazing.
Okay, I liked him. I know he's been getting a lot of it's a controversial take from you, because he's been sort of criticized for being essentially like Scott Adkins could have just played this character. There's no reason to have him in a fat suit. And a lot of people
What
really
I
upset
liked about him
that.
when he showed up is he looks like a Dick Tracy villain.
He looked
from,
like
the
Steve Coogan
Warren
in a fat
Beatty.
suit. Yeah, he looked like he was dripping makeup. You know what I mean? Like it was.
I think I haven't
sloppy
seen any of
character.
that controversy. I think it rocks.
No,
his
it's kind
look
of
is
kind of
amazing.
been the disappointing thing about it. It's like, oh, you have Scott
What?
Adkins.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's
It's my
that's
favorite
been
part of the movie. They
I'm not
have this
saying that.
Really
I'm not saying
tense poker game, and then they go into the Matrix rave sequence club, and they have this amazing fight in the rain.
in the rain,
where-
which is again another.
and he feels like this. It starts to feel like a video game where he's the boss level, right?
Yeah, he's an
And
unstoppable
It's this
force.
really great fight. He's so physically
Large.
impressive in that suit, which is obviously the point of it. Is he's so intimidating and physically impressive in as this character, and he's got these gold teeth, and he's putting on this really heavy accent. I thought it was that really quality kind of world building where they don't have to talk about it at all. You just sort of understand, this is kind of the German contingent of the John Wick universe. And this is the head of German Continental, or whatever you want to call it. And you're immediately just seeped into this world and this scene that is, again, on its own, just this remarkable sequence.
Yeah,
And
I didn't have
all of the best characters in the movie. And I loved that part. Yeah, I didn't realize that people were getting up in arms about it.
People were getting upset about it, but like
I don't know.
I'm not with them, Jay. I'm just pointing that out.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I didn't think that it was like, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm like is all that matters to me is the character cool, and is he good enough, and does he fit
His
in the
features
world?
are so exaggerated that I don't.
Yeah, it's
think
like it's also part
it
of
looks like
like
a
this
cartoon,
movie.
which is what
This
I
movie
liked about it.
doesn't. That's what this movie feels like at times too. It's like
Yeah.
a big old cartoon, and they're having fun, while also like it's always been like the idea, Jay, of this whole series is and has always been stupid. The idea of it's the reason why nobody wouldn't.
I don't know about
it.
stupid, because the first
There's
one was
no-
so elementally emotional.
Jay, when you first see the trailer for the first film, go back 10 years, and you see that they're making a movie with Keanu Reeves, or the only incentive as to why he's going to kill these people is because they killed his puppy. The premise of that 10 years ago sounds
On
silly.
paper, yes, but the reason he cares about
Yeah,
that dog
no,
so much ends up being
I-
really resonant.
I know, I get it. I get it. But what I'm saying is that it's built kind of like, if you're just not like us, like film people, and dive into it, the normal
Yeah.
person hears that and goes, that's the silliest damn thing I've ever heard in my life. So, and then
Well,
you
it's
see the
such-
movie,
it
it's totally
really
different
is-
and everything, but
yeah.
there's still a level of like, this man's real, like, even the characters lament about it. It's like, it's just a dog, dude. Like they even say that in the movie. So it's like, to take it to that level of extremes in that movie, it's so ridiculous and it's fun. But when you break it down, it's like, yeah, this is the silliest damn thing
And then
anyone's
it's
ever
had,
like
it's had all these
killed the whole
domino
Russian
effects
mob
where now
for.
he's-
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I
but
mean?
but as a viewer, and especially just a general, I'm just here to have fun at the movies viewer.
Yeah.
What makes people more upset than anything in a movie? A dog dying. It's
Yeah,
the most
no.
upsetting thing you can do in a movie. And so what's so genius about that flourish in the first movie is John Wick can do anything for the rest of the movie, and you're going to be
Yeah.
on his side for the rest of the
Because you're
franchise.
justified it because you killed the dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very clever to do, playing
Yeah.
on audience expectations like that. And it has now, again, those dominoes have fallen, and now we are having a battle at all of the landmarks in Paris. And
Yeah.
I love so much how there's a scene where they're talking about the conditions of a duel, and they're right in front of the Eiffel Tower, and there is
Yeah.
no one there.
It's the
It is
same
like they have
scene-
reserved the 4 blocks around the Eiffel Tower for their
Well, it's the
congregation of
same-
6 people.
Well, you think that's weird? Look at Fallout. Like Angela Bassett and Henry Cavill have a conversation literally at the exact same spot. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and it's 2 people, but this is like a table and like chairs and like a like a radio and a glass of, and like they're all having wine and shit. Like it's like a meal.
Yeah, and then at
You're
that
having a
point, all
meal
I'm
here.
thinking of is Barry Lyndon.
Yeah, I mean, like, but also too. Oh yeah, it's totally that, because they're playing cards, and whoever gets high card
Yeah, they're
gets to
playing
pick.
war.
Yeah, yeah, it's literally they're playing war essentially. Yeah, it's great. I loved it. It was wonderful. And by the way, every time Wick won in that scene, audience just like cackled. It
Going
was
crazy.
like it was.
Well, that
Dude.
is the thing about John Wick. You find yourself just cackling a
Yeah.
dozen times,
It is
which is
giddy.
just such a fun reaction to have in a movie theater.
And listen, I know that a lot of movies and a lot of people, we heard it a lot in our generation growing up about movies and movies violence and everything. And should you revel in it or whatnot? This movie does not take itself. These movies really honestly never take themselves seriously. Oh, to the point in which, like, I think that this is based in like a actual reality that we could live in. Like these movies are inherently
They've gotten
silly.
more and more heightened, and they've made
Yes.
it very clear throughout that they're, at least in part, Buster Keaton homages.
Yeah,
Right.
they're the most violent Buster Keaton
They're
movies
trying
you've
to
ever
be
seen. Yeah.
ludicrous, and more than anything, they're trying to show incredible stunts, which are achievements. They are as much achievements as again a traditional acting performance, which is why we need to have these stunt people at the Oscars. People have been talking about it forever, but you have something where you will not see a more impressive performance across the board than Donnie Yen in this movie,
Well,
because he does carry an incredible amount of weight on his shoulders as an actor, and then as a stunt performer, he is as good as any exclusively stunt performer.
yeah.
He is a stuntman all by himself, and also a really convincing actor in this film. It's a
Yeah.
really incredible performance that people probably
Not
don't
many-
get enough credit for. But I
No.
think you see it in the reception of this movie.
Mhm.
People are starting to realize how impressive stuff like this is.
Well, I think.
And
Well, I mean,
really
to be,
love to see that.
Well, to be fair, Jay, I think that the conversation happens at least once a year. Because there's some
Yeah, it was RRR last year, right?
RRR or Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick, yeah, for sure.
It'll happen again in a couple months when Dead Reckoning comes out because
Mission
we have them
Impossible, yeah.
every time Cruise is doing a movie now. It is literally the dominant of the conversation. The problem is, though, and you tell me I'm wrong, people like Keanu Reeves in Hollywood a little bit more than they like Tom Cruise. So maybe that'll carry a little bit more weight.
Oh,
There's
you're saying,
also
like they like him as a person more.
I think so. I mean,
This movie is not gonna.
Keanu Reeves can go to the Oscars and
hang
not
around.
feel like
This is
scared
not
of
going to be an
Hollywood.
Oscar nominated movie.
No, what I'm saying is like, what I'm saying is, it's like if there is a catalyst and a vehicle that could move it forward.
I got you. Yeah.
A movie like this rather than something that Cruise can do, because yes, we all know Tom Cruise is a daredevil and wants to kill himself, but this highlights more than just the main actor doing it, if that makes sense, because Cruise does the majority of his stunts. And to give Reeves credit, he did 90% of his stunts in this, but there are dozens of people that are doing this movie, as well as also main actors doing it as well too. Like there are tons of and they hire a ton of martial arts experts and people to really do it. I mean, one of the other big people that have been a big component of it for many years has been Tarantino too, and how he's always talked about it as well, because he's been a big champion of Asian cinema, as well as also like somebody like Zoe Bell, who's in the Kill Bill movies and stuff, and then gets actual like actress roles and things of that nature too. So I agree with you, Jay. I think it's like something that should be brought up, and it's definitely like it's one of the two things that the Oscars should want to celebrate that they always miss out on, and also adding more categories like who doesn't win awards is stunts and then casting, because I think those are the two giant elements of an action movie or just any movie in general.
I come in. I'm gonna whisper this. Get rid of the shorts.
I've said it for years and nobody wants to hear me on it, but you know,
I'd rather see the honorary.
The shorts
Oscar
can go to the
speeches.
governor awards.
Exactly. Yes, and bring back the honorary Oscars.
I want to see the I want to see. I mean, come on. Like who just got the honor? Like Michael J. Fox just got the honorary award. What an emotional moment that would be. People know who Michael J. Fox is. People love Michael J. Fox.
Got one a couple years ago.
Wes Studi, yeah. I mean, Spike. That's how Spike got hit. Could you imagine if they had Wesley Snipes and Samuel Jackson and Denzel Washington on Oscar night go up there and present it to Spike? Or
great.
You know, they just had Diane Warren literally win it. She could finally be there on Oscar night. Everybody celebrate her for once. You know what I mean? Like it
or the idea of the huge fans of cinema seeing a celebration of David Lynch, who will never win a traditional Oscar ever, but seeing him celebrated for the visionary that he is would be, for a lot of people, very, very special.
It's what they did with Altman.
That would be awesome.
It's what they did with Altman.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know who?
That's how many of the best directors ever end up getting recognized by the Academy.
You know who I think is going to get an honorary here in the next couple of years?
Hold on. Kevin Spacey?
No. I think it's going to be Harrison Ford.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And who wouldn't want to honor Indiana frickin' Jones and Han Solo live on the telecast? Like that's.
Is there a movie? Can you think of is there a movie he maybe should have won an Oscar for?
The Fugitive?
Yeah, I mean he's great in that. I actually watched that was on, as we were getting on just now to record. Fugitive was on AMC. Watched about 30 minutes.
The movie's like on a loop over on AMC. To be fair,
yeah, it's such a good movie. So
good. But that movie powers the bills at AMC.
Witness, maybe Witness.
That was what I believe he was an Oscar nominee for. Well, Working Girl should have got nominated for that. Oh, so great in that.
So handsome.
He's probably going to win the Emmy this year
for Shrinking.
I think so. I watched it. I watched it. I watched the whole season. That show. Fantastic show.
Yeah, he's very funny.
Siegel. Oh, he's hilarious in that. Siegel too.
Mm-hmm.
Whole show. Absolutely great. If you can go on Apple and watch that, Shrinking. The
Had a
whole
great
season's
time.
available right now.
This episode brought to you by Apple TV Plus.
Let's get into some. We're about an hour in. Let's get into some
Yeah.
spoilers. I think we could talk about spoilers here for like the last couple minutes, then wrap up and get out of here.
Yeah.
So,
Totally. So John Wick dies.
so John Wick. Yeah. So John Wick. Well, so there is the big duel, and obviously there's the big staircase sequence, which is being taught online, and everybody's talking about this. Just talk about homage to Buster Keaton. This great sequence with stairs there in Paris, and
You know
it's
what?
absolutely
You know what it
fantastic.
reminded me of?
What?
You seen Hot Rod
Yes, I've seen Hot Rod.
when he falls down the mountain?
Yep, that's exactly what. Yeah, now thinking about it, yeah, that's exactly what. Where it just keeps going and going
Yeah,
and
I thought
going
about
and
it. I thought about it in the theater. I was like, man, I should watch Hot Rod again.
Also stars Ian McShane. There you go.
Ah, very true.
Very true.
Connective tissue.
What was it? I was watching Ali Plum, BBC interviewer on YouTube, and McShane says that the number one movie that keeps getting brought up to him by fans is not John Wick, but it's actually Hot Rod.
It's got a cult following for sure.
And I thought that's wonderful. Like not Deadwood, not John Wick, not anything else
That's so
that man's
funny.
done. Hot Rod.
It's not Hellboy.
No, but he is good in that. To be fair, I
Yeah,
like those Hellboy
masterpiece.
movies. You leave them alone. I'm leaving those movies alone. Oh God, what was I saying? Anyway, yeah, so he gets up there. There's the grand duel between him and Donnie Yen. They get 3 bullets apiece. Donnie Yen sticks one right in his gut, and Alexander Skarsgård gets a little, Bill Skarsgård gets a little bit cocky, and
There's this unspoken agreement that
yeah.
Kane can shoot John. John will withhold his bullet.
Mm-hmm.
The Marquis will get arrogant and want to finish John Wick. He will then enter the duel, and then John Wick, who has not shot his final bullet, will say, oh, by the way, it's still my turn. And then he'll shoot him in the head.
Which I got to
And
tell
it's
you,
great.
in the moment, that was the thunder that just broke that
It was
whole
great.
room. It was insane when I saw that with the crowd. It was like Bonnaroo in that whole place. It was insane when that happened. It was nuts. But also too, I that was the moment I was just like salivating at how much I loved like that reveal. And then, but it leads to Wick looking at the sunset in the morning and in Paris and just kind of falling over on the steps. You don't see him actually die, but he does get put in his in his grave by Winston and the Bowery King.
Well, you see him fall over on the stairs.
Just because you see him fall over doesn't mean he's dead.
Oh no, definitely, totally true.
He's not dead. No, I
think he's dead. I think that was their way of saying the Keanu Reeves chapter of the John Wick universe is over.
So John
They
Wick
wanted
is
to
done.
Try and make it definitive.
So John Wick is
But
done.
the universe, well, again, we'll get these 2 spinoffs. But I think this was, if I had to guess, and this is total conjecture, I know nothing. Me and Keanu haven't talked in months. But if I had to guess, I think Keanu was kind of like, I think this is it for me. I think we made 4 great films, and I want to close the book on this, and I want this to be a big part of my legacy as a movie star. Has this supplanted Neo as his most definitive role?
I mean, based off the box office for Resurrections in this, I would probably say so.
But The Matrix is one of the most important movies.
I understand that,
History.
Jane. I understand that, but we also live in a world, as you know, we watch sports. You and I watch sports, JD and Brendan watch sports. What does it always say in the sports world? What have you done for me lately?
Well, okay, let's go.
People get caught up in the moment.
Hypothetically, it'll be a sad day. Keanu Reeves passes away at age 145 because that's how long he's going to live. Fingers crossed. What is the first movie they mention?
The Matrix.
I think it's probably The Matrix.
Point Break.
I think it's The
Speed.
Matrix, and then I think it's John Wick.
Speed.
I mean, those are all great films, but John Wick, he's made 4 John Wick movies.
What is? I was gonna make a joke. Bram Stoker's Dracula. No.
Good movie.
He's good.
He's terrible in it.
No, what was that one movie that he did where it was like he was the 47 Ronin? Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that one's tough.
That one's tough.
He was in the wilderness there for a few years.
He was, and then he came out. Oh, you know what it'll be? Something's got to give. We'll talk. You know, it's him and
he's great in that.
he's so goddamn good in that movie. It's absurd how good he is in that movie. Yeah, I would totally leave Jack Nicholson for him. What are you talking about? It's not even a debate. And I love Jack, but like, no, come on, it's Keanu. He looks great. Yeah, I think for most people now it will be because people are prisoners of the moment.
Well,
but
sure, yeah. If you ask somebody,
but for me, he's
today-
always going to be Neo. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Or for some
He's
people,
so,
he might
he's
be
so
Bill
good
and
in this though, and
Well,
it is
isn't he-
so much.
it might be Bill and Ted for some people too.
Yeah, I'm sure, but the thing about the John Wick movies is, I feel like in the minds of most people, probably myself included, they are Keanu Reeves movies first.
Yes, no, that's correct. And when I think of the Matrix, I think of the Wachowskis.
I think of the Wachowskis.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's very, very fair. But yeah, I think that these are definitely. I mean, and that's what I think. I don't think this is the last one. I don't think he.
You're leaving the
I-
door open for Keanu to return. Look,
I
we have
think they'll- I
established
think-
you can perform some voodoo magic and bring back people in the John Wick universe.
Listen. There's an old saying in all movies is that if you don't see him dead, they ain't dead.
Yeah, well, that was the whole Game of Thrones thing, right?
And the thing about it is too is like he's still going to have a ton of people after him, and there's probably also an unwritten rule between him and the Bowery King that was like he was able to find peace with that dog, and he was probably
the
able to find
Marquis
40
has
acres.
a brother. His name is Alexander Skarsgård, and he is looking for revenge.
Yeah, or something.
You know, I don't
Exactly.
know.
There you go. But like, no, I think what Chad Stahelski and him have said is that they're done for right now. They've given a lot to this. It's been 10 years. They kind of want to maybe take a break. But they've also come out and said, and I'm reading the quote here because I want to get it right here on camera because the reception is that in our minds, Keanu and I are done for the moment. We're going to give John Wick a rest. I'm sure the studio has a plan. If everybody loves it and it goes kooky, then we'll take a quiet minute.
He said,
Meaning
what is Stahelski working on now? There was something that came up recently.
He wants to do
Ghost of Tsushima, the video
Ghost of
game.
Tsushima. Yeah, I think that's what he said he wants to do.
He would make such a good Ghost of Tsushima. Anything, whether it's a show or a movie or whatever. I love that game. You played that game? The game's
I think I
incredible.
wouldn't play that game. That game's rules.
Yeah, that game rocks. And obviously, he's the king of action,
do anything
American
right
action
now.
right now.
He can do
Right?
anything.
Is that fair to
right
say?
now. Him or Macquarie.
Yeah, I guess so. But those are they're very different kinds of action. You know.
Well, no, because Macquarie's. I would say this. Stahelski's more of a director. Macquarie's more of a writer, but they both have the ability to, like when those Mission Impossible movies are built off of his scripts and the ideas that he comes off with.
Yeah,
his
yeah.
script.
But the John Wick movies are all about choreography and
Yes.
fighting.
They're different kinds
and
of action.
Mission
even
Impossible is all
I
about
mean-
scale and.
Well, okay. Well, actually, he's not the best living director for action. That's Big Jim Cameron. So let's hold up a second here. Let's just say, Big James Cameron. Come on, he just did Avatar 2.
I mean, the
and that
final
movie
act of
freaking
Avatar
ruled.
2 is about as good as it gets. as
I
far
mean,
as
that's
action is concerned.
that final act of Avatar 2 is better than this movie. No offense, just saying. Like,
The final act in and of itself, I would agree. Yes.
not the overall movie, but the final act of that movie is perfect. Like,
But you
and
look at-
look at
but
look
look
at me.
at the
I'm defending
individual-
James Cameron here. So
Look at the sequences in this movie. What's your favorite sequence in this in John Wick 4?
oh man, that's like, well, one, I do love the aerial explosion gun that we get.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Um, oh man, that's
I
really
really like
good.
I thought the idea of those arrows that were like they could go through concrete just for no reason, but that they get so many miles out of that idea. The first time that I cackled was when they shoot an arrow through a guy's leg, and then they shoot him in the head, and his whole body like swivels around the arrow and collapses on the ground. It's very gross. It was awesome, but that was the first time I was like, "Whoa, okay, this is a John Wick movie again." That's for sure. But I think what's his name? Killa, I think, the German guy, Scott Adkins. That's my favorite sequence.
Well, they acted. What is it? The Arctic Trump. I can't even say it. I'm terrible at French. The
Arc
the
de
place.
Triomphe.
Yeah, the Arc de Triomphe. That
That
sequence
sequence
is great
is pretty remarkable.
because you want to know why? It is the inverse of Mission Impossible Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
We get the chase, and it's going with the traffic in Mission Impossible. In this movie, and that's during the day. This is, we get it at night against the traffic, and it turns this movie into a literal game of the most nightmarish Frogger you're ever going to play in your life. And it's terrifying.
There's a
And
great
it's
20 minutes of car stuff there.
so great. By the way, you talk about sweaty things that are in this movie. The DJ that kind of works for the, they've had like these things that they've sort of hinted at like the accountants or the ladies doing the different
operators,
the operators and stuff like that. So now that taking that,
you're talking about the radio,
the radio,
the radio like Samuel
DJ
L.
of
Jackson and Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, like, this song goes out to you, Mr. Wick. Hope you frickin' die. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of great. I'm not gonna lie, it's really good.
I will say this. There's the one part where she's like, and it's time to paint the town red. I leaned over to my brother and I said, they're about to play Paint It Black. And then sure enough.
And they did, but it's like, but you know what?
They
honestly,
did, and it's kind of like, it's so obvious that it's
so obvious, but it's
also,
like it kind of slap. Well, they're not like literally just playing the Rolling Stones; they're playing like a cover of it.
It's a cover, I guess.
Which I kind of admire that they did covers rather than just doing like the
yeah.
If they also did
one way or the other.
Well, it's like in the trailer they have the the Sopranos thing. Got yourself a gun, but it's like a cover. And I was like, if they play the original version of that in this movie, I'm going to walk out probably because I will not be able to handle it because that song is so damn good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they play. I really liked the score in this film. They play some of the most recognizable songs. They kind of repeat them. They recycle them, which is fine. But there are some original pieces of music in this that I think are really, really good.
Yeah.
From a technical perspective, this is the best one. This is a visual feast.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is the most stylized action series ever made. I mean, it's probably an exaggeration to one extent or another, but I guess you could probably say The Matrix. But there is the lighting in this and the composition. I mean, there were some times where I did think about this. Kind of looks like a shot Wes Anderson would do. There's a lot of symmetry going on in a lot of these shots with a lot of kind of older school aesthetics, a lot of old French aesthetics. There were times where I was thinking about Wes Anderson. There were times where I was thinking about Marie Antoinette or Barry Lyndon again. And there were times where I was thinking about The Matrix or a Michael Mann movie or whatever else. But Stahelski wears his influences on his sleeves, but if you're going to use influences, use the best ones. It's a really, really well-made film. To the point that I truly am, whatever Stahelski does next, whether it's Ghost of Tsushima or whatever else it is, I think he's a good director. Beyond this being a good, fun, dumb action movie. I think he's got a lot of talent, and I've thought that since he became, because what happened with 1 was I'm totally forgetting the other guy's name. Who's the Bullet Train guy? The Deadpool
David
2 guy?
Leitch.
David Leitch. When David Leitch got hired to the big stuff, I was like, oh, so Leitch was kind of the real
He was the guy.
architect of John Wick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2 comes out, and I'm like, oh, this is like pretty much as good.
If
And then
not
3
better.
comes out, and I'm like, oh, Stahelski was the guy.
And then
right?
like, well,
So he's the more
kind of
talented one.
it kind of made sense because he's the stunt guy to Keanu, right? And Leach is just a name to get you in the door, I guess.
Well, they're both stunt guys, but Stahelski
Did Leach do Atomic Blonde?
Leach did Atomic Blonde.
That's not bad. It's not great.
It's not as good as John Wick.
No. But
And
it's
now he's doing
good.
Bullet Train, which is awful. I mean,
He
Deadpool
did
2 was bad.
Deadpool 2. No, I like Deadpool 2, but it's
Yeah, I
not
like
because of the
Deadpool 2.
direction. It was because of like the script and the characters there.
Yeah, but
And yeah, Bullet Train's awful.
bad.
You know, like Bullet Train is like one of the most like watched films on airlines.
Probably on trains.
Maybe automobiles,
Mm,
because it would be planes, trains, and automobiles.
you know what? Great job.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But
you
yeah,
think,
no,
you think Keanu is going to be seen again? There's going to be a John Wick 5.
correct.
I don't.
They had plans for it literally a couple of years ago, and they announced it.
I just think he's getting old. He's getting old.
Harrison Ford is in
I
his
know he
80s
looks
and playing
awesome.
Indiana Jones. Come on. Like, don't even start with me on this.
We're
Like,
going to end up, it's going to be John Wick 7, and it's going to be young Robert De Niro kicking that guy in front of the convenience store in The Irishman.
that's yes, and as somebody that loves that scene, like, shut your mouth. But also,
I love
like,
that movie. That movie's
yeah.
remarkable.
Well, there's a purpose behind that. There's a purpose for why it looks like that too. Like, I mean, it's to
Oh, I
make
don't
you
know about
feel the
that.
age of this whole thing. Like the whole technology and everything to put it on it. It's not to make them look like that. Yeah, it's
I don't know about
oh,
that.
it's definitely like that.
This is like when we had our Scream 6 review, and we were like, is everything bad the point? You know?
with that franchise, for the most part, it is, because most of them, I'm not like the biggest fan of those. I recently
ouch.
watched Scream 6.
Ouch.
Not good. These
Scream
new
6,
movies,
you didn't like it?
stop making them. How about that?
I liked 6. I hated 5.
You like 6?
Mm-hmm.
I think like there's some inventive stuff, but I feel like they could have done more. Like they could have just, like, it
worse
feels
than
wasted.
most of the Craven movies. I would say I like it more than 3, but that's it.
Yeah, 3's like 3's all right. Like
Yeah, 3's all right. But
I
like
think 4's good. Ish.
I like 4.
I
I mean,
two's the best
We're going
sequel.
to get a Scream movie every year for the next 5 years. So
Yeah,
get
I'm worried
ready.
about that. When are they going to go to Hollywood? They're going to go to Hollywood next time, aren't they?
Jenna Ortega now is a huge
She's
star.
superstar. She is a
Yeah.
superstar. She's, whether you look, I haven't watched Wednesday. I need to maybe watch it. I heard good.
I'm never going to.
Sounds like you're going to.
Okay, I'm going to. You're right. Bonus content.
I feel that it doesn't look like it's that bad. It's maybe,
Oh, darn it. You know what? The
What?
Scott Adkins scene isn't my favorite scene in the movie.
what is your favorite scene in the movie?
My favorite scene in the movie is that overhead oneer
Yeah.
with the shotgun.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. The explosive shotgun.
Yes. Okay.
The
Yes.
one over there, the
didn't
aerial
realize
shot.
what you were talking about. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
best
the
scene in
aerial
movie.
shot. It's
Duh.
fantastic. That's the best scene in the movie. Well, outside of course, of the Donnie Yen and Keanu conversation. But of action set pieces, yes, that's the best one. Because
Yeah, that
you're
scene's
because you watch them use that shotgun the entire time in this movie, and you're just kind of like sitting there, you're like, this could get repetitive at any moment, but you're just so in awe of the innovation behind and the directorial flourishes that are behind it. And it also,
and you know what that
because of
reminded
Dan
me
Laustin's cinematography, you can frickin' see everything in the frame.
Yeah,
and
you
it's-
totally could.
That's why this movie rules. Like honestly, I know that I agree with you, Jay. It's not going to be in the awards conversation, but Dan Laustin cinematography will definitely be a contender for my best of the
Yeah,
year
100%.
at the end of the year.
It
It
should
is
be. It should be.
incredible cinematography in this movie.
I think John Wick it will not be in the Oscar conversation. I think it will win some critics awards, some like fun critics awards.
I think that
somewhere.
if Top Gun Maverick can win a lot of critics prizes for cinematography, this movie should too.
I agree.
And if Greg Fraser can get nominated for the Batman, this at critics prizes, this should too.
Mm-hmm. But you know what that
action movies.
You know what that scene reminded me of? Movie I love.
Which one? Oh, Ambulance. Malignant. Oh, okay. So you're gonna bring up Ambulance in the stupid
great movie.
Aerial
there is
shot,
as good
drone
work in this as Ambulance.
No, this is way better because this didn't give me a goddamn headache like that movie did. That movie.
The drone stuff wasn't what gave me a headache in Ambulance. It was the other stuff.
It was the acting and the writing and everything else that went with it.
I like that movie. It gave me a very intense headache. Does that make sense?
Bad.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that movie is brought to you by Tylenol. You know what I mean? So
yeah, well, Michael loves his corporate tie-ins. So
no shit. No shit. So all right. Any last things and yes, I do think he'll be back. I think that this is going to be the most profitable in the series. They're not going to in Lionsgate. The Hunger Games sequels or prequels are not going to keep them in the business. They're going to come back to this at least one more time, because I guarantee you this. No offense to the ballerina in that TV show, it's not going to be as successful as this, because the thing, like you're mentioning, Jade, the thing that's so successful about this is Keanu Reeves, because he's a goddamn movie star. And movie stars,
I don't know if there's a
hunger
hunger for the John Wick universe. There's a hunger.
No, they're
for
hungry
John
for just
Wick.
John Wick. Yeah. Like the minute you start calling this the Wick-a-sons or like a Wick story, you know what I mean? Like like the ballerinas, a John Wick story, like they did with Star Wars. It's like nobody gives a crap about any of those things. They just want the thing that they love the most. You know what I mean? It's like why what is it? Lucasfilms just said that they're not going to do like an indie series or something. It's like, you don't need to do that. Just do Indiana Jones and be done with it. Like, stop. Like, stop overthinking this. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Or maybe other studios should stop tapping into existing properties and create their own John Wick and have the trust in their.
It's hard to do. And the thing, this is the John Wick franchise. It's
isn't an anomaly.
Had a similar trajectory as another really weird comparison here. Pitch Perfect, where Pitch Perfect was an original property. It did much better than expected at the box office with its first film, first entry. Sequel explodes because there becomes such kind of a fandom around it as people learn about it. That word of mouth is hard to get, but sometimes when you make a movie as good as John Wick, and there is a desire to get original properties out there that are really fun to watch and people have a really good time with, they can succeed, but it's far from a guarantee. It's anomalous in a lot of ways, but I love it. I mean,
your Pitch Perfect analogy, those movies got worse as they went on. These are, for a lot of people,
they did. Yeah, Pitch Perfect 3 is atrocious.
Getting better as they're going on,
and 2 is not very good either. But
but these are getting better as they go on.
But it gave us, if we don't have Pitch Perfect 3, do we have Cocaine Bear?
The world will never know. Another movie I caught up with, not good.
Oh boy, bad. Anyway, final thoughts. I think it's very interesting, and this is completely unrelated to John Wick 4.
Right.
I think it's very interesting that Stahelski is in The Matrix Resurrections and Leach is not. And it makes me think that Stahelski is a cooler guy that I'd want to hang out with than David Leach.
Yeah, it sounds like a guy. Yeah.
Chad Stahelski, he plays handsome Chad in The Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does. My final thoughts are, obviously it was very tragic. Recently the passing of Lance Reddick.
We didn't talk about this.
And the sad thing was, Jay, is I saw the film, I think maybe 2 or 3 days before his passing.
Oh, yeah.
And so I saw the film with the knowledge of him still being like around and probably gonna,
Yeah.
and so I was like, oh, that's a bummer because I love that character and I love Lance Reddick. And then a couple days later, he tragically passes away.
It was
and
a
it's
little
like
spooky watching
it
it
was
today.
it was
It was a
very
little eerie.
spooky to be like, is this like a weird movie that's about to come out where it's like he literally is in it and dies.
Yeah.
Like un like what's the best way of saying it? He doesn't have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he dies. He dies not in like a heroic way, but as a
Unnecessary. It's really
flex,
unnecessary.
as
Yeah,
a
it's
power
like
play.
yeah, it's like
I mean, if he's not,
it's an
if he
inconsequential
has
death.
not
Like, it
passed
doesn't-
away in real life, you don't think twice about the situation of his character dying in that movie.
But then you
obviously it
but
takes on
then
an entirely different meaning now.
yeah. But then he's also supposed to be like his last film, I think, is The Ballerinas, is what he's going to be in. But yeah, it was just very, very surreal and very weird. An actor that, I mean, I love him on The Wire,
The Wire,
and Fringe, and Lost. Those are a lot of television shows that I watched with him. He's got a great bit on the Eric Andre show. That if you've never seen it, please go on YouTube and watch it. It's one of the
that's great.
guest stars I've ever seen in my life. He also was in a couple of Key and Peele sketches too, and it was absolutely hilarious in those. He had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
And he was also like really, and I was also really glad though that, even though yes, he does die in the film, and it kind of sucks because he showed his capabilities of being able to go toe to toe with action with Wick, because he has those great scenes with John in chapter 3 trying to keep the Continental from being taken over by the High Table and the henchmen there. And so it was nice to at least know that when I'm able to go back to this franchise, to know that he had some great moments that were just behind the desk. But he had a presence that was just great, and it's truly sad that he's passed away. But
it almost
also
feels like he deserved to have a better career, honestly.
Yeah, but I feel like also too
He's had some iconic roles, but
I mean his work on obviously this continues my ongoing never understanding how The Wire never got an Emmy nomination. Never got a single freaking Emmy nomination. I think it got maybe one, and that was it for like writing or something of the finale. But like no acting. A lot of by the way, a lot of the members of the Wire's cast is passing away. Michael Kenneth Williams and now and Lance Reddick. So he was great on there. He was really kind of a really interesting cog in the machine on Lost, and then he was really good on Fringe. If you've ever watched that show, a show that I really liked, and he was great on that. But he's just had that presence, and yeah, I mean, like you feel like he was going to maybe get a movie or something where he gets to be the lead, and maybe like a little indie play, kind of like a Bill Nye last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does feel like he never. There
never
very
got
well
that
might be
opportunity.
something that I just haven't seen.
But that's
I
also
don't know
just
about that was trying to be that. But
yeah, but it's
feel
probably
like he
just.
needed
But
a
it's also
ton.
Hollywood too. You know what I mean? Hollywood just doesn't offer those kind of
Right.
a lot of
Trying to think of,
that's a whole
what
other
is what is an
conversation.
equivalent?
I'm trying to think about it. But I'm sure we'll be able to think about it and figure it
Yeah.
out. But anyway, just a tragic loss, and I'm glad that this franchise at least was.
He should have played Snoop Dogg's character in The Beach Bum.
That would have been interesting. Yeah, because he kind of has like that Eric
Snoop
Andre.
Dogg's good in that movie, though.
He's really good in that too. That'd be fair. But yeah, no, he's absolutely one of those great character actors. And I was thinking about it with his passing. We're getting a lot of character actors from that we grew up with, Jay, that are passing away, and I'm really worried about the fact that in the future I don't know if we're going to have those kind of character actors for our generation that are going to be able to stick around. You know what I mean? You kind of tell early on that they're because they become cogs in a machine. But they're the people that stick, and I feel like I don't know. It's really
sad.
sad.
There's a very interesting conversation to be had about the fact that 95% of movie stars are over 35 right now.
Yeah, like
There's
we're
an
not in the.
conversation to be had about that.
Well, it is, but like you don't see any of the under 30s either. Well, obviously the idea of a movie star has sort of faded away, but then like under 30 actors, you know, you can kind of tell. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
love Richard E. Grant, but for most of his career, he was a cog in a machine that you just kind of put in there, and he was like a scene stealer, or he was like, hey, he has a really good couple scenes in this movie and that movie, and then he has like one breakout, like can can you ever forgive me? And then
Yeah,
it's like,
well,
he has this.
conversation.
Then he goes back
for a
to
different- for a
making
different
more high
podcast.
profile ones, like
Yeah.
secondary roles.
This is
and
a
stuff.
rabbit hole. We'll go down.
Yeah,
at
this is a
some
rabbit
other
hole.
day.
We'll talk about it on a different stuff, and Jay's gonna get
Yes.
really mad at us for this. But John Wick, we have a review up on the site. I know JD has thoughts on Letterboxd, and you can find those at letterboxd.com/InSessionFilm. If you want to, you can follow us on our social media platforms. Just search In Session Film at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchats, all the fun places out there you'll be able to find us. Go to our website. There you can find information about our Patreon page at patreon.com/InSessionFilm. Sign up for that. As well as also the In Session Film Store. Grab all your favorite merch over there. T-shirts. I believe there's still the hashtag JD Tears T-shirt in there. Buy that for a proud papa now, because he's going to be crying extra hard every time he sees a movie, including the new Jeff Nichols one that comes out later this year. Follow us on all of our platforms on how you can listen to the show, our app, which is insessionfilm.com/apps, and how you can find out how to download that and get that for just a low fee of $1.99, I believe. And then if you're watching us on YouTube right now, just rate, review, subscribe us, hit that like button. Smash it. Don't even just like it. Just smash your computer, break it in order to like that, like this review. Let us know in the comments below what you exactly right. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of the movie and what your thoughts are on the series, and if you want to see John Wick 5. Jay, any final thoughts on before we wrap this review up?
No, it's been a long review.
It's been a long review. Yeah, he's absolutely right. Can't wait to see more John Wicks, and can't wait to review more things. So until then, we'll see you all next time. John Wick 5, baby. Coming out in 5 years.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is.